Welcome to this video, which is a re-recording of the Almedalen Digital Twin launch event. So Almedalen is the biggest event in Sweden on the cross-section between healthcare, research, politics and interest organizations. And at this event, we launched our new digital twin technology. And here you see a picture of that the entire video is available, but as you see, you can't really see the slides that well on that video, so therefore I've done a re-recording of the presentation part. Apart from the presentation part, there are also panel debates and other presenters who presented, for instance, Chinese versus Swedish perspectives. And the reason why I'm doing this re-recording right now is that it's meant as a background information and background video to the machine learning and multi-scale modeling meeting at NIH, which is held tomorrow and day after tomorrow on October 24, 25, 2019. From now on, the same presentation as was held on this launch event. And at that, I started by presenting the concept M4 Health, models for health. And what type of models? Well, it's M4 models: mechanistic, multi-level, multi-timescale, and multi-species models. And these models are mechanistic because we have constructed them based on prior knowledge, and using time series images, continuous glucose measurements, and all sorts of other data and knowledge to incrementally and in a systematic way lay the puzzle of the human body. And this is the basis for the digital twin technology, which is supposed to be useful for healthcare, for drug development, and for just ordinary people who want to understand themselves or who want to do preventive measures or become more fit and so on. And this is the basis for a digital twin technology, and this was the launch event of that. And the digital twin is a copy of a person, which is based on the physiological mechanisms that we believe are active in that person. And this is the result of research, but it's also the product of this will be handled by our spin-off company to turn the research into actually useful tools for these end users. And here you see in the logo, it's symbolized by the digital twin here of the tree. And the name of the company is called Sund, which means healthy in Swedish, and it's also the last part of my last name, Cedersund. So I'm located in Linköping University, which is in Sweden, and this is the research group, the logotype of the research group, which has and this logotype has another interpretation or symbolism, where the first part is that it's a box that you can look inside. So it's not black box models, but it's physiologically based mechanistic models that you can look inside and understand why things are happening the way they are. And the other part is that we keep track of the uncertainty of all aspects. So we know which predictions that are well determined and which are just sort of guesses. And this is symbolized by this ball in the middle here. So this is the one slide summary of the entire presentation. So the rest is just more details. So again, Cedersund is my last name, and it was given to my family, or taken by my family, by my grandparents that you see here in 1940. So this picture was taken in 1940 when my uncle was just born. And Cedersund has two parts. The first is cedar, which is a Swedish version of the cedar tree, which is the reason why in the logotype there is a tree, the tree of knowledge. And the other part is Sund, which means sound, which as you know, means healthy, but it also has other interpretation. So this is the next generation of the Cedersunds. This is my father, who was the Swedish champion in chess, and he talked about quite often about sound openings in chess. So you don't know if you will win by doing these particular moves, but according to him, this was a sound opening that is sort of based on sound reasoning. You don't know that you will win, but you know that it follows sound principles, that is, thinking is sound. And this also goes to the sort of intuition or the gut feeling. I like the sound of that. And sound in general also means music. I'm also a concert pianist, so all of these interpretations somehow come together into the choice of the word sound. And returning now to the logotype and to the sort of symbolic picture of what the logotype means. So this is the digital twin, which is based on sound science, in my opinion, at least, that has been used to generate this digital twin. And it's been done by laying the puzzle carefully, piece by piece, in a systematic way. And then once you have the digital twin, you can simulate various scenarios, and then by using various creative tools, we are working on converting these simulations into stories. If you do this, this will happen, and how can we use these type of stories that are based on the sound science and the digital twin technology to inspire people to make sound medical decisions, and in general to live a sound life. So the prototype that I will show for this technology is quite basic, but some of the things that has been developed at my institute, and where we have the knowledge, and where one of the types of interface that we will have will look something like this in the end, where you can zoom in on different parts of the body, and you can take away the muscles, and you can take away the fat, or you look only at the fat, and you can rotate, and you can zoom in and make cross sections, and so on. And this is an already existing commercial product, and what I will present now, the essence of what I will present, goes beyond what you saw here, because it's not only that you can look inside the body, but you can interact with the body in the sense that you can give it a meal, or you can give it a drug, or you can make it exercise and see what happens, and you see what happens dynamically over time. And how is this possible? Well, it is because we have developed ODE models, ordinary differential equation models, describing the physiology for almost 20 years of research. So here are some of the key papers that for the different organs, the beta cell, the pancreas, and the muscle and fat and brain and liver and blood flow and the heart. All of these have come together to be interconnected into one single model. And this symbolizes the general physiological model, which then, by adding patient-specific data from a sensor or from electronic healthcare records or something like this, you get a personalized model, which is in a way a physiologically based AI model, if you want. And this symbolizes that we have a physiological part, but we also have a statistical part, which comes in different forms. But various types of hybrid modeling technologies are combined to make this into a personalized model. And this hybrid model is the digital twin, so a computer copy of the patient. So what can this do? Well, it can simulate on different timescales and different levels. So here we have another way of symbolizing the same model. So this is the whole body part, and here we see the changes over time. If you change your diet, and we see the comparison, if you change your diet and you take a weight loss drug called topiramate, and this is now a comparison between data, which are the dots, and the simulations, which are the different lines. And this is long time scale, 6 months, but for any day here you can look at other type of data, and here you see a meal response for a specific organ, the adipose tissue. how much glucose it takes up per time unit in response to a meal. So here we are down to a part of a day. This is one meal for healthy people. In blue, we see that the model again is close to the data, and for type 2 diabetes patients in red. And we also have not only different time scales, but also different biological levels. So this is the intracellular part. So here we have taken out fat cells from the people, from these two different groups, and we have given the isolated cells insulin, and we see how, for instance, here the insulin receptor responds by becoming tyrosine phosphorylated as a function of time. And now we are down to minutes and even seconds here for the first responses. So our model can simulate all sorts of things on all different timescales, and it can simulate the response to drugs and diets and exercise. It beats the statistical part beats what the National Diabetes Register, which is what is used in the clinic today to predict the risk of cardiovascular events. And it's already today used and partially financed even by AstraZeneca, and other drug development companies also have started to do things with our models. So another sort of quality stamp of the model is that we have tried to incorporate the best models that either we have developed ourselves or that we know of in the field. So the meal model is already approved by the FDA, and it's approved for a specific purpose, for the purpose of type 1 diabetes, where you typically want to do closed loop or semi-closed loop solutions, meaning that you want to have an algorithm that calculates how much insulin you should pump into a diabetic given glucose measurements. And this usually involves certification using dogs, where you made a dog version of the pump and a diabetes version of the dog. And you study them for some number of years, and spending around $100 million or 1 billion kroner before you moved on to humans. And now the FDA has approved this meal model that we have incorporated into as a replacement for the dogs, so that you can certify the algorithm directly with simulations. And this means that you spend 3 orders of magnitude less, and instead of years, you spend a few months to do simulations. And this is part of the glucose insulin interplay of our model, and this is where there are quite a few other companies and other competitors as well. But what is unique with our product is that we have the crosstalk between this glucose insulin interplay and the fat things and the blood pressure regulation and brain activity and stress responses and weight changes, and this I believe that at the moment at least we are quite unique in having. So all of this I've showed you so far is for the general model. So now how do we personalize it? Well, here is an example. This is our patient 0. This is the first person that we did such a personalization for. And we did all sorts of examinations just to show the capability of all the different type of data that we can incorporate. So here we see the fat deposits inside the body, and here we see the muscle. But apart from that, we put this continuous glucose monitor on him and measured blood flow using 4D flow MRI, and did various types of perturbations where we measured triglycerides, cholesterol, inflammation markers, and so on. And we also made him keep a detailed health diary. And these are things that were measured, that were done after Almedalen, but they are done now for the most part. This is just to show that the personalization works. So here we again have the glucose curves, and this is the raw data, and this is the digital twin simulation, which has now been fitted to this data. So it's been training on this data, and then we do validation. So we test the predictive capability of the model on the short time scale by looking into his diary and seeing that at 11:30, so over here, he ate a meal of 555 kilocalories. And then the digital twin says, based on this information alone, that this is what the glucose curve probably will look like. And then once we have done that prediction, we look at the data, and we see that the prediction is quite good. And in similar ways we did for all the other type of data. So this is the blood, the beating heart, and the blood flow in the heart and around the heart, and all sorts of parameters we took out from that. And here we again see comparison data and simulations. So that was for the training and sort of the validation. So now this is for the beta interface for how people can interact with the digital twin, and this is now quite preliminary, but this is what we can do at the moment. So up here you choose different organs. So you can, for instance, click at the brain. And this is the model that is currently implemented. So we have more advanced versions as well that aren't published, but this is published, and it describes intracellular signaling and the bold response, which is what you measure in fMRI. And what we're choosing now is the bold signal, because we know that this is fairly well validated in the model. And apart from the brain, you can pick all the other main vessels or main organs. And here we are choosing now the blood. And in the blood, you can choose between many different arteries. And this is from another model that we have in collaboration with Peter Hunter, integrated with all the other submodels. So now we are picking a part of the brain here where we also do the brain activity. So here to the left, in this way you pick which organs you want to look at and which variables in each organ. And then to the right here you pick what you want to see. And or what you want to do. So here we choose some heartbeats and then some brain activity, which is the type of brain activity that we train the model for. So we know that these predictions are quite likely to be correct. Even though they now are predictions, so we don't have these data, they are predictions that we could look and compare with data later in the same way as we did for the other things. So this is now the prediction of in this part of the brain, what is the brain activity. And apart from that, we can look at predictions of the blood flow in the same part of the brain that we picked. And here we see the overlay between the heartbeats, which comes from another part of the body, which is the quick variations here, and the slow changes, which is due to the change of blood flow, which is due to the neurovascular coupling between the brain activity that causes more brain or more blood to come into this part of the brain. So in this way we have connected, or we see that we have connected the brain part of the model, brain activity, with the blood flow. And in a similar way we have connected other parts. So and here we'll just show that we can now look inside cells. So this is inside adipocytes. This is based on the model that was published based on our own data. And here we pick IRS1, which is the insulin receptor substrate 1, which is the second protein to respond to insulin. And this adipose part is then a part of the organ, the adipose tissue, which is part of the meal model, and this is the one I talked about before. So in this way here we have, in this little video here, picked different parts that has to do more with metabolic stuff. And here again, now we choose other things. So now we choose to look at things that are more relevant for metabolism, like a meal. Or we start with some rest and then we do a meal, and And then you specify some quantitative details, and you specify if you want to simulate just one meal or if you want to simulate a daily schedule, that you see how this would change things over months and years. So here now we are simulating just one meal. So here we see glucose in plasma. So this is the same thing that we validated before, but now it's a prediction that we don't have data for. And this is for the same meal. We see the predictions of the insulin, and this is the classical crosstalk. But apart from that, now we also have cardiovascular stuff. So if you eat a meal, you actually increase your heart rate a little bit. For instance, because you have elevated insulin levels. And apart from this, we also pick this intracellular value here, the IRS one. So that is illustrations of what our model can do on the physiological level. So the machine learning part or the hybrid modeling part can look at different risk factors. So here we see the variables that we know. We know which sex he has, and that he doesn't have high blood pressure, and his parents and his family is not known for having cardiovascular problems. So these are things that we know, but we don't know some other things. So we don't know HDL cholesterol levels, and therefore we can impute them. So this imputation capability allow us to find predicted values. So you saw that now we have values for all of these different biomarkers or risk factors. And this has been done by training the statistical part on big clinical data sets with many patients to be able to predict all values. And once you have done that, you can also calculate the risk of having a major cardiovascular event within the next 4 years. So this is what I wanted to show you on the current capabilities. And now, how are we planning to start to implement this in the clinic? Well, the first thing that we will try on real patients will be in something called a health conversation, which is a study and a practice that is now a current practice in a place called Västerbotten in Sweden. It's up in the north. And in this clinical tradition, you invite all people who turn 40, 50, and 60 for a preventive extensive examination. And once you have done this examination, you have just a conversation for about an hour where you talk about all the different values and you talk about their lifestyle and you ask them what they would like to change, if anything. And this might seem simple, but it has had very good effects. So survival rate has improved quite dramatically, and the risk of having cardiovascular event has also improved quite dramatically. So you really see clear prevention effects from this very simple approach. And what we hope is that we can magnify this by giving the patients access to their digital twin. And that we will see more preventive measures, higher compliance to suggested treatments, better understanding and communication, and in general better ways to integrate versatile data sources that the patient might collect himself or herself, and what is available to the clinician. So the timeline of this, in January earlier this year, we started to collect the data for this patient 0 and the first prototype of the interface. And this we presented for stakeholders in China first, and then in Sweden, and that was the launch event that this is a re-recording of. And now it's October, and now we are presenting this for some scientists at some conferences. And in parallel to this, we had some informatics projects, ethical applications, and starting early next year, we will do more of these digital twins that will not be meant for healthcare testing, but just to test the model and the covariation and to validate all the crosstalk between all the different organs. And in parallel to that, we will continue to develop the prototype, and then at the end of next year or beginning of 2021, we will start to implement this in the first trial in the health conversation and see if it works. If it works, we'll move towards having it as a more standard part of that clinical protocol, and then move on to other patient groups that we will try these on, and type 2 diabetes, stroke, high blood pressure, and gestational diabetes, which we will test in Sweden and China, and this in different parts of Europe, this in Sweden, and so on. So, in summary, if you want to use this, you need to enter some data, but you don't need to enter all of this data. You fill in what you have, and then you use this imputation strategy to have likely values, predicted values for all the other things. And then you have your digital twin, which you can use to do patient-specific simulation, to impute and estimate new biomarkers and how they vary over time in response to different interventions. That you can test, and then you can tailor the best treatment for this particular patient. You can use this as a pedagogic tool to improve the understanding of the doctor first, and then of the patient, and hopefully compliance and preventive measures. And you can use this to calculate classical statistical things like risk factors, and thereby also do prioritization among patients. And if you want to interact with us, you can either be a person who has your special sensor or your special ability to provide data, or you might have your own interface that you want to have this behind the scenes of, or you just want to be a beta tester or be part of crowdfunding, an early adopter of this. And in all of these situations, we are looking for these type of people of all these different characters, including investors. And if you're interested, sign up here, and then you will get more information from us. So that is what I wanted to present for you today.